Hello and welcome. My name is Martin. This is my take on this. Today we're talking about a video from Minority Mindset from Jaspreet about the, let's say, upcoming, maybe, wealth transfer. We obviously don't know that. But he talks about opportunities in the market, in the economy that might come up in the future, maybe even the near future. I do like his style. I do like his opinions and his suggestions. So let's get into the video.
An opportunity like this doesn't come around very often, and most people will miss it. Ray Dalio has been warning about a recession, and if it does happen, it could be the greatest wealth transfer of our lifetime, but only for those who are prepared. That's why in this video, I'm going to walk you through my personal game plan on how I plan on turning a downturn into an upside and how you can protect yourself too. Ray Dalio is the founder of Bridgewater, which is the largest hedge fund in the United States, and he gave an interview a little while ago where he said that America is entering a death spiral. And according to him, this is going to come with economic pain because of three reasons. Reason number one is our national debt here in the United States is growing faster than the economy.
However, when debts rise relative to incomes on a chronic basis for a long time, it's like plaque in that system accumulating. Think of it this way. The more debt and debt service you have, the less money you can spend out of your income.
Well, yeah, that's obviously true. That's like what we see with many people when their credit card debts go way overboard, and they might pay at the end, thousands of dollars a month just on credit card debt and on other debt they have. Maybe, like short-term loans from these payday loans, or like pay now, pay later, and so on. All those things are way on the rise. So the same thing obviously happens to a country if they are in way overhead in debt. So there will be, at some point, there will be a problem. I'm pretty sure about it. We just don't know when.
So as it rises, right now for the U.S. government, it's almost $1 trillion a year that goes to interest payments. So it's sort of like plaque that narrows that, and it's a problem.
Reason number two is that when the United States keeps borrowing more and more money, there has to be a lender to the United States, and this is where he says we're facing a supply and demand problem where we're borrowing more debt than there is demand.
When you run a large deficit, you have to sell debt to do that. And the quantity of debt sold has to come up against how many buyers are there. And when I calculate it, the quantity of debt sold to be sold is much greater than there is the buying power, the inclination to buy.
This is why the Federal Reserve Bank has to keep printing more money to lend money to the United States because there's not enough lenders out there, which brings me to number three, the debt-death spiral. Sorry to all of you dentists, but this is where Ray Dalio says we're going to be entering a time where the United States may need to borrow money in order to pay back the interest on all the debt that we have.
The debt-death spiral is that part of the cycle when the debtor needs to borrow money in order to pay debt service, and it accelerates, and then everybody sees that and they don't want to hold the debt.
Again, that's even happening in with families and private people, where they pretty much ask families and friends and so on to help pay down their debt, so they make more debt on another side to pay down the existing debt. Obviously, that's not sustainable on the long run. There will be repercussions about that. As said, if it's a country or if it's a person or a business, it just doesn't work over the long run like that.
That's where we're approaching.
Now, for full transparency, nobody, not Ray Dalio, not a random guy on YouTube, nobody can predict where our economy is going, when a recession's coming, but what we do know is that recessions are a part of our economic system. Over the last 100 years, we have seen 16 recessions. So it's not a matter of if we're gonna see another recession, the question is when, And how do you prepare and take advantage when the next recession happens? There's a lot of things that could lead to it, but you want to be ready for whenever that time is. And the reason why this is so important is because yes, recessions cause a lot of people to hurt financially, but they also create more millionaires than any other time. Take a look. During the 2000 dot-com recession, the NASDAQ fell by over 50% before it started going back up. During the 2008 housing market crash, real estate prices fell by more than 40% before they started turning around. And then during the 2020 pandemic, we saw the fastest stock market crash in the history of time. And then we saw the fastest stock market rally in the history of time, both in the same year. The people that had a strategy, were prepared, and went against the grain, were able to buy great investments at 50% off, and they were able to grow their wealth a whole lot faster. But if you want to take advantage of things when times are not good, you have to be prepared when times are good. So let's break this down. If you want to take advantage of the next downturn, you have to be financially prepared and emotionally prepared. And let me explain what it means to be financially prepared, because the reality is you could see an amazing investment opportunity tomorrow. The S&P 500 could be cut in half. But if you don't have any money to actually go out and buy these investments, it doesn't do you any good. So the first thing you have to do is you gotta have some money. If you've been subscribed to my channel, you may have heard me talk about the 75-15-10 plan before, which says for every dollar that you earn from here on out, 75 cents is the maximum you can spend, 15 cents is the minimum you invest, 10 cents is the minimum that you save. Now, you have to understand which season of your finance journey you're in. If you're just getting started and you have credit card debt, you have no savings, the very first thing you gotta do is you gotta pay down your credit card debt. Then you gotta have a little bit of savings. Once you have that, and now you can start thinking about investing, this is where you have to start building a strategy for you.
Yeah, that's kind of tough one though. We know that about 60+% Americans, they don't have like $500 or $1,000 in their savings if an emergency happens. Let's say the car breaks down or they need a new fridge or something like that. And because of that, it is kind of tough to say 25% of the money you get every month to use that for investment and saving. It's obviously the right thing to do, but most people cannot do that. That's just kind of impossible. Because if you think of it, let's say you earn about $4,000 a month cash after taxes, and your house expenses, no matter if you rent or if you have your own house with a mortgage, is let's say about $1,800 a month, and that's pretty close to average if you have like a 2-3 bedroom place. And with that, so you're 1,800 out there, then you have usually you have a car, obviously. Let's say we put that on the lower end, that's about $500 a month for your payment on the car, plus insurance on the car, that might be another $150. And then obviously you have other fixed costs like your internet, your cell phone plan, and other things like also your health insurance. So at the end, I'm sure you're more close to like 3 to maybe 3,300 on what you have on fixed cost. And with that, you're obviously already over the 25% that you would have or would need according to his plan. Because 25% of 4,000 would be $1,000 per month that you would need to put aside. That's just not possible for the majority of Americans out there. Even if you have a family and you have 2 people earning money, and you might say, okay, you come to maybe 10,000 a month after taxes, which is already like a 6-figure income. Even with that, you usually have then a bigger house, you have 2 cars and so on, so your fixed cost might already be like at 6,000-7,000 easily. You have kids, you got to pay for that. So it is, as said, it is pretty much for the majority of people, even this simple rule is kind of impossible to do. And that's what you need to keep in mind. It's a good rule, no question about it. But it is a very hard rule to follow if you're a regular earner. But that's just my take. As I said, it's my take on this, and that's what I think. And I'm not sure if this rule can apply to the majority of people.
So I follow a strategy called ABB, but I gotta remind you, I'm just a random guy on YouTube. Investing has risks. You are never guaranteed to make money when you invest. In fact, you will lose money at some point, so make sure you always do your own due diligence and never blindly trust a random guy on YouTube. So when I invest my money, I'm doing two different things. Number one, I'm investing my money passively, and then I'm investing my money actively, and then I'm looking for opportunities. So when I talk about this passive investing, this is where I said ABB. And ABB stands for always be buying. So with this passive investing strategy, I have funds, ETFs that I want to own. They give me broad exposure to the markets, that give me cash flow, dividends, and I'm buying no matter what. I'm buying when markets are crashing. I'm buying when markets are sideways. I'm buying when markets are booming. Every week, there's money pulled out of my checkings account and is deposited into my portfolio of funds no matter what, because the first letter in ABB is A, which stands for always. Always be buying no matter what's happening in the markets. Then I have my
Yes, again, that's a good strategy. There's no question about it, but most people just cannot do that. I usually have like $1,000 a month that goes like he says, always be buying. But again, most people cannot do that. Just have $1,000 or even $500 every month to do something like that. And that's just the main problem of this plan. Yes, you can do this with maybe $100 a month, but obviously with $100 a month, even after 10 years, you might not be having more than maybe 20,000 or something like that. So it is really a tough call for most people to actually follow this type of rule.
Active investing strategy. This is where I have money put aside, waiting to be invested. And this is where I'm looking for what I call a market shift. I want to know where money is moving, which industries are primed to benefit. So this might be taking a look at President Trump signing a drone executive order where more money is going to be going into drone companies. That could create an investment opportunity for me. It could be saying that more money is going to go into technology, specific technologies. That could create a potential investment opportunity for me. Again, I'm not a trader. I'm looking for where the money is moving and which industries could benefit with this money moving there. And that is where my investment money is going on my active side. It takes more time, it takes more research, it takes more work. But this is something that I am interested in. And yes, I am obviously blessed that my team here at Briefs Pro is also doing this research for me. But this is something that I am actively doing. Then I'm looking for opportunities. This is where now I have money put aside.
So yeah, his active investing is actually, I think, also a very good idea. To be honest, a lot of people out there, they have interests in certain things, right? It doesn't have to be like specifically for the stock market. Let's say you're interested in games, like for Xbox and PlayStation, right? And you follow that industry because you love the games. So you should be kind of also reading some news about the software developers in that gaming industry, because that also could be a possible opportunity. A new game comes out from a well-known developer, and you might say, well, I might want to invest into that company where that game comes from, because that might go up 10-20%, something like that. So yes, but in that case, you have to actively look into companies and see which companies might be of interest.
As my emergency investment fund, that when things go wrong, I have this cash to be able to capitalize on investment opportunities. When the 2020 pandemic happened, I was buying. And the interesting thing about the 2020 pandemic is this was the first time I saw a market crash while I was on YouTube. And I was making videos publicly saying, hey, the markets are falling. We're seeing the craziness happen in the world. Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to keep buying in phases. And as I was buying, I was getting flooded with comments of people saying, Jaspreet, why in the world would you buy now? The market is collapsing. Things are going to come to an end. You should not buy now. And we didn't know what was going to happen, but I bought in phases on the way down. I kept buying more aggressively as markets fell even further. And then the Federal Reserve Bank opened up the money printer and stocks rallied at the fastest rate we've ever seen. After the 2008 crash, that was when I started to get involved with investing, and I started by investing in real estate. There was a lot of people around me that had way more money than I did. that had way more experience than I did, that had way more resources than I did, but refused to invest in real estate after the 2008 crash because the whole sentiment was you don't buy real estate. Real estate doesn't create wealth, it creates foreclosures, it creates bankruptcies. And now that might be a very weird thing to think about, but during that time, that was the common sentiment. But it created an opportunity for me to come in and buy because nobody wanted to do it. It was not an easy thing to do because I didn't have anybody to talk to, but it created...
Yeah, he's absolutely right with that. But again, and that's again not really an option for, I would say, at least 80% plus Americans out there to actually do that, because buying real estate needs quite a big amount of money. So you need to have at least like 100,000, 200,000 just laying around in order to buy some houses out there. And with the current prices, yes, they might go down 30, 40%. We just don't know. That could happen again. And then there is opportunity to buy a house that used to be 500,000 and you might be able to get it for 350. But you still need quite a big amount of cash and you need to be approved for a mortgage on that property. So it's again nothing that the average American can do. Unfortunately, it's just how it is. So that's when they say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because most people just don't have that chance. And it's really hard, you know, when people see these type of videos and similar videos and they think, well, you know, that's all nice and dandy, but I just cannot afford that. It's just impossible. You always have to think about that. That kind of, you know, puts a little bit of blow against Jaspreet there, but it's just the truth.
An amazing opportunity, and those properties have built me a lot of wealth today because, well, I was able to buy them for pennies on the dollar, literally. So you have to have money to be able to capitalize on the opportunities, but I don't recommend, again, this is as a random guy on YouTube, that you just wait, because like Warren Buffett said, who was the greatest investor of all time, time in the market beats time in the market. You want to own the markets. Now, when bad things go wrong, it is great to have money to actually capitalize on those downturns. But when you just constantly wait for the downturn, you miss out on a lot of the upside. And this is where you have to know what is the right allocation for you, where understanding yourself. Are you going to be a passive investor, an active investor, looking for opportunities? All three, two of the three? Knowing what is the game for you. But once you have some money to invest, you also have to be emotionally prepared. And this sounds easy, but the reality is this breaks even the most seasoned investors, because when things go wrong, the media tends to panic. And I'm telling you this as somebody who owns a financial media company. The traditional media loves selling greed and they love selling fear, because these are the two things that generate clicks, which means they generate ad revenue for the media companies. Why?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's 100% right there. That's kind of the bad thing these days. Pretty much all the media companies out there, most important, obviously, is that they make money, right? And they make money with the clicks, with the advertisements. And they only get the clicks and the viewers if they have really horrible news. Most people, for whatever reason, they love horrible news. Whatever happens, as you know, the worse it is, the better is it for the advertisers and for the media company, unfortunately. So if there's something happening, let's say there is a housing downturn, which kind of happens right now in the Florida region or in Texas, where prices falling slightly, and then all of a sudden you hear like, oh, there's a big housing crash and this and that and whatnot. So people then get, you know, worried about it. Oh, they lose all their wealth in their houses, and then, you know, they might sell on the wrong time, just because the media is kind of way over top on these things. So as he said, you got to be emotionally prepared for these situations, so that you're not like getting totally messed up in your head and then start doing things that are totally not what you actually want to do. So yeah, that's a very, very true statement.
Why am I telling you this? Because when you are an investor, it's very easy to get caught up in the sentiment that, oh my God, the world is going to end. And then everybody starts to panic. And then that creates this fear. And then we start to see it in the stock market because then prices start to fall or go up based off of sentiment. Well, a lot of the sentiment is driven by news, and that news can make people very emotional. And this is where there's something I want you to remember, and I want you to think about something anytime you see something bad happening in the world, especially financially. And the thing that I want you to think about is poop. P-O-O-P, poop, because this is what you need to know if you want to be able to build wealth. You have to remember how poop works, because what poop stands for is panic leads to overselling, leads to opportunity, leads to profit. We have seen poop happen time and time and time again, and when you understand how poop works, you will have the opportunity to build wealth for yourself, because what you see happen anytime something goes wrong, people will panic. Especially when there's a lot of negative headlines coming out, people start to panic. You'll start to see it on Reddit, you'll see it on social media. People are panicking, which then leads to overselling, because now people just start to sell because they get scared. Not because maybe there's something fundamentally wrong, but because they get scared. Now, if something is fundamentally wrong, your investment's gonna go bankrupt, something is bad, sure, you gotta get out. But you have to be able to recognize the difference between emotion and fundamentals. So when you start to see that overselling, this is where it also creates opportunity. Again, we saw this happen in 2022. Markets fell by 20%. We saw it happen in 2020 when the stock market fell by around 40%. We saw it happen in 2008 where housing prices fell by 40%, some places upwards of 90%, even 92%. We saw it happen in 2000 when the NASDAQ fell by 50%. That overselling through panic also created opportunity, because once things go down, then the savvy investors start to pop up and say, something smells off. Things are selling at a big discount. And that's where those opportunists can come in, assuming that they have money. If you're financially prepared, you have the money, now you can come.
Well, that's the right note right there. Assuming you have money. That's the big point, right? Because that's usually the thing that most regular people, especially in those times, don't have. There might only be a handful of savvy investors that have cash on the side that can say, oh yeah, well, I have a couple 100,000, whatever, laying around, so now I can start investing. And yes, at the end, it will always go up, especially in America. America is just the way it is built, is that there's always opportunity. There's always the next day, a better future. So it will always go up. So that's actually the nice thing, the given actually for that country. That's why investing in the Dow Jones or in the NASDAQ is kind of one of the, I wouldn't say safest things to do, but the most profitable to do, because as said, it will always, at the end, it will always go up. There will always be buyers. There will always be opportunities that see something positive in the future, because for Americans the glass is always half full, and not like a lot of other countries where the glass is half empty. So that's actually the sentiment in the US that enables this opportunity that he's talking about. But you need to have some money on the side to actually do that. If you don't have that, well, you're shit out of luck, really.
Come in and capitalize on these opportunities to make the final P in poop, which is profit. But it's not going to happen overnight. The 2020 pandemic was a bit of a weird case where we saw markets fall faster than ever. Then we saw markets rise faster than ever. That's usually not how it works. After the 2008 crash happened, we saw real estate prices fall year after year after year until around 2012. That was when we saw the bottom for real estate, and then real estate prices started to go back up. After the 2000 dot-com bubble bursted, we saw the NASDAQ fall for years before it broke new record highs again. So you have to be patient. But if you're patient and you're able to buy good investment opportunities, it can set you up to build a lot of wealth. I'm telling you this from experience, but you have to be prepared, because the reality is when bad things go wrong, people tend to panic, and then they wish, oh my God, I wish I had these resources to be able to invest. But that's why I want you to prepare when times are good, because when markets are breaking record highs and you hear good news about the economy, nobody thinks about something going wrong. But that's the best time to be preparing, because when everybody assumes nothing can go wrong, something tends to go wrong. And the last piece of advice that I want to give you from a media professional is in the financial media space. I want to remind you that things generally are not as bad as the media will make it seem. Things are also generally not as good as the media might make it seem. They're usually somewhere in the middle. Keep that in mind as you're going through the process of investing. That way you can stay calm through the noise and find the opportunity instead of making greedy investment decisions or panic-driven investment decisions.
So yeah, that was a pretty good video. But as I said during the video, most Americans do not have these opportunities, unfortunately. I'm really sorry about that. But that's kind of the overall case. So if you are interested in investing, it is important to first pay down your debt. Jaspreet said that in the video, first pay down your debt. That's the first thing you got to do. The second thing is make no new debt, no matter what. Just eat very simple, eat at home, just have, use water from the tap, maybe get a filtering system or like these water bottles that filter, and just try to be very, very frugal. That's the only way to get there, the absolute only way to get there. So once you have all your debt gone and you can say you have a little bit of money aside every month, even if it's just $100 or so, try to focus on more of a safe investment, as he said, like an ETF, an index fund, something like that. Look it up, check out if it has been a good performer over the last 5, 10, 20 years. And then you can say, okay, this usually always goes up, let's say 10, 20% a year. And you add the $100 every month into it. It will not make you rich, but it will bring you to a point where you then can say, oh, now there might be an opportunity somewhere, where you can say, well, I can buy this property or whatever it might be. And you sell those assets and you buy then the other asset, right? That is possible. That is possible, but you have to know it is a very, very long road. So you have to start as soon as possible. Not wait till you're like 40 or 50 years old. You have to do this as soon as you're off from high school or even in high school, have a side hustle and put that money aside. That's what you need to do. There's no other way around it. The only, and I say the only other way to make a lot of money in a maybe even short period of time is by opening your own business. But that's a total different story. That has nothing to do with this video. But I just want to say there are possibilities out there to actually do something like that. When it comes to investment, it is a slow process, a steady process, and you have to be prepared. And you will not get, 100,000, 200,000 in, 2-3 months time, no matter what you try. That's not going to happen. And so that's what Jaspreet actually says. You have to be in for the long run. And steadily increase your investment. And hopefully the $100 a month can become $200 a month and then $500, maybe at some point $1,000 a month. And with that, then you might have in like 20 plus years, you then have maybe, 200,000-300,000 on the side. Money that you didn't touch, money that just grew out of thin air, if you will, just by adding small amounts every month. But that's the only way it goes. If you have the opportunities like what he says with the 15% and 10% rule to put in savings and in other assets, that's good. That's great news. So you got to do that. Don't buy that new car. Don't buy that boat. Just invest the money and grow it like that. It's way more important than that boat. So yeah, I think as always, I do like his videos. And I think it's a great video, and it's important to keep all those points in mind in order to create wealth. And then we will see if there is another great wealth transfer in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years. And we'll see when this maybe market crash will happen, and then you have to be prepared for that. All right, so that's it for this video today. There will be another video coming up soon. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. It will help out this channel to get more viewers. And I will see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.